Hi everyone, it's Karen and I'm back with my second project for the month of January for AngeldreamCraftsKim on Etsy. And as I had mentioned when I showed my design team package, I said that January was going to be my month of fairy projects. So this continues along the lines. Last project was the doily and fairy book with the laces all from the shop, and this one uses the same digital pack that I purchased, and but this one is a folder. And so I'm going to start just by taking the tie off. She did get pretty chunky, so I did decide to put the tie on. It's loosely tied. I chose this color because it matches the sari silk in the background that is on the cover. And this month I just wanted to do some sari fabric and some brighter colors and with the laces, just to show you how well the laces from the shop can be used with color and with sari fabrics and that type of thing. So it's a loose crinkled seam binding that I had in my stash, but you could use ribbons that Kim has in the shop. You can also use lace as well for your closures. Well, I'm going to start with the front, and what I did was I used one of the images from the digital pack that I had, and I printed her. She's just printed on sort of a heavier weight of copy paper, and then I have stickled her wings up. I've used beautiful trims and laces from Kim's shop. This one on either side here, running on either side, is one of her dangle trims that she's had in the shop. It's very, very popular. I'm sure she's getting it in again. I think currently it's sold out, but I decided to use a couple pieces of that just to run right along the sides of the image. And then this is the beautiful dangle trim that was in my design team package, and I ran that all the way down the side here with in mind that I wanted the edging of this to actually stick out a bit over the edge of the folder that I created. And it's got a really pretty topper on it. And then the dangles, I cut them all off except for one little dangle hanging down from each of the points where the dangles came from. And then we'll talk more about where I put all the rest of the dangles. And then I used this lovely trim that was in my design team package. I used pieces of that throughout the entire journal, or folder, I should say. And here I added them to the middle of the flowers because the white is beautiful. It's a beautiful contrast against this sari silk in the background, but it was a little too white, and these flowers were just perfect. And then in the centers of the little sort of flowers that are kind of in the hearts that are part of the lace, I just added a tiny piece of the bling mesh and just put that there because I had it in this sort of light pinky color. Behind this lace here is the pink one that I had in my design team package, and it's a beautiful delicate pink lace, soft pink. So I put that along there. And then on this side, on the sort of the spine side of the folder, I cut pieces of this lovely lace, and I just have a couple of pieces left. This is such a pretty trim lace. This is just, it's beautiful as a full yard of it, but also the individual pieces work really well because you can kind of manipulate them and move them. It actually has a whole other piece on it, but I've since used that up, and so I just have those tiny pieces left. But you can see sort of tucked in under here is where the rest of it, what it looks like. It has a scrolly bit on it and that. And so I tucked that all along the edge here. And then I added some flat back little pearls from my stash in the middle of the flowers, and then a little bit of that bling mesh again cut and put in between to add a little bit more sparkle here. Now I have this gorgeous beaded sari piece, and I got several pieces of sari last year from Kim and from another source, and I honestly don't know if this was from Kim's shop or not, but it well could have been. She still has sari fabric packs and I think individual pieces for sale in her shop. So definitely something to look at because the sari pieces are gorgeous. Now this was a bigger piece and I just cut it the same way I do when you have a beaded applique piece, say from a wedding dress or whatever. So you put the hot glue across it and then put a line in it with your little spatula or whatever you use. I use this and I just press it into the glue and make myself a track, and then I cut between the two in the valley of the two tracks, and that way you don't lose any beads in cutting it. And then I put glue behind all the beads on the back side to make sure that the strings are all well in place. And then you're usually good to go on these appliques or on sari pieces or on your wedding appliques if you do that method. And then I used the little daisy flowers that I had in my design team package and I scattered those throughout, and I used some silk flowers from my own stash and some roses from my own stash, silk little rolled roses. I know Kim has or does have some roses in her shop, but these ones were just from my stash. You can see I also cut more pieces of that trim that I've put here and I tucked it in amongst the flowers as well. Again, in here again and here and a couple up there. And then I also added in these little flowers that I had from my design team package. I have a few left. I cut them individually and I tucked them into little spots all around the collections of flowers. You'll see them. And then these were the little bling hearts that were in my design team package, and I put 3 of those on the front cover here. And then these are the little bows that I had in my design team package. I had the white, pink, and the sort of taupey color, I guess, or beige. No, well, they're not beige. Coffee color, light coffee color. And I used 2 of the pink ones, and I did the butterflies again. And I showed how to make the bows into butterflies in my last design team video. So if you didn't see that, you want to pop over there, you'll be able to see exactly how I put these together. So I did a couple of the butterflies there and there, of the bow butterflies, and then I added in one of my little pink beaded butterflies on here as well. So I think that covers everything except at the top here, I used a piece of lace from Kim's shop and on the bottom, which is actually put on in the inside part of the inside of the cover, but it shows, of course, on the front. And I have had some in my stash. I actually had some from a design team package, but I also purchased some of my own. And this is the only piece I have left. I absolutely love this trim. It's a flat trim and has a beautiful scallop on it and a bit of a sheen in the threads, and it's just so versatile. So I used a lot of it in this project, and like I said, that's from Kim's shop. And then now what I mentioned before that I had cut, this is what this looks like down the side here, and I cut off the dangles except for I left one on each little one here. And then the rest of the dangle, I collected them all and I used them to trim the outer edge of the folder. So I continued from this one and I put it all along the top here underneath, and it goes all the way around to the back. And I did the same at the bottom. So I just want to show you again here at the bottom where I did it. Exactly, continuing on from this one, glued them all down, and then they go all the way around to the back. So this piece of fabric is sewn onto a piece of recycled packaging from Amazon. I'll show you that too as well. And then it's sewn on, and then of course it frays a bit, so you do get a little bit of fraying, natural fraying, but that will only happen a little bit on the edges, and then it will stop. It can't fray right out because it's all sewn, and there's some gluing here where this is glued down. And you can see that beautiful trim as it extends all the way through the folder on the inside, and of course shows on the outside. This is the beautiful fabric that I had, and I just so wanted to use this on a project, and it covers the entire folder, and it has this side here, and it flips inside as well, which I will show you in a second. So this is the Amazon packaging. This is one of their new recyclable. They call it Just Like a Box, and it has like a foamy kind of bubbles in between the packaging, so it gives it a lot of protection for whatever's in it. And I just literally took it and folded it 3 ways like that, and I covered the outside, the entire outside, with this silk fabric, which is here. I had quite a large piece. I was really fortunate to be able to buy that from someone that was selling some sari pieces. And then on the inside, I covered it with another fabric. So in between, you can feel the softness and you can feel the packaging, and it still has that crinkly sound. So it's really makes a really nice folder. I was really, really pleased with how that turned out. So that's the outside and the back. And then let's start opening her up and discovering what else is involved in this folder. So as I said, it opens up completely, and I kind of don't want to show you everything at once because it's kind of fun to, but on the fabric on the inside is a pink eyelet, and I had a large piece of that pink eyelet. There it is there. And so I used that and lined the entire inside of the package with that. And so you can actually see through the holes on the eyelet and see the brown paper behind there. But I used the plain side of the packaging for the inside of it, so that when you did see those peekaboo spots through those eyelet holes, what you saw was plain brown packaging. And then the outside, I put the solid fabric on. You could do paper on both sides as well. It would work, but I had the fabric and I wanted to use that. Here you can see where that lace is applied on the inside, running all the way along, all the way, and on the bottom. So it's a complete coverage on the inside to finish it off, but it's a peekaboo for the outside as well. You can see that this side I put the beautiful bunny lace that Kim has and had in the shop, and I think she still has some in there. And this is such a cute trim, and I had this in my stash left over, and it was the perfect size to fit down here. And I just think that bunnies and fairies go together really well, so I put that on the outside. I glued it, just this one and this one. I attached it to the folder to make this little pocket so that I could put this big journaling card in here, because she is just so cute. And I stickled her wings, and I added one of Kim's little crowns that she's had in the shop. Still had one in my stash, and so I added that to the top of her head as well. And she's just a nice big journaling card. I put her on some pink cardstock. So she's nice, got good weight to her, and she fits really nice in that pocket that I created. And then on this side, what I've done is created a folder with a lot of flips and tucks and different writing pieces, areas in it. So there is areas for you to be able to write in it. There's also booklets in it that can be taken out if you wanted to as well. And then you could add other things of your own in it. And I used eyelash trim, and I'm still finding, when I cut it, the little pieces fall everywhere, and I'm still finding little pieces here and there. So here I've created the page first, and I added some of this beautiful lace from Kim's shop. Now this lace, I did purchase this one on my own. It wasn't part of a design team package. It's this gorgeous lace. And so it's really nice for running ribbons through the center there. But the one thing about it that I really like is that you can cut it in half. And so when you cut straight through the middle of it there, I had a piece here. Of course, you know, you lay everything out and then it disappears. But anyway, there it is underneath. So when you cut it in half, you get, because these are just joined like right there and there, and you just cut through that and you end up with 2 full pieces of lace that can be used then. Let's turn it the right way, that can be used as 2 single pieces, and it's a really nice width. And so I've edged the end of this page with that, and I've used some of her beautiful bows. There's a bow here and there's a bow here. Now this bow is on the top of a little booklet that is tucked into this little tuck spot here. So it goes in here. And what I've done is used a couple of the long tags or bookmarks from the digital kit, and I've made a little booklet. So it's got all these cute little pages in it. I did sew them in, and I added a couple little butterflies on the strings on the inside. I've added some pages that actually flip out, which gives you even more space to write on. And this paper is all a paper that I dyed myself with some food coloring. And it actually turned out really pretty. I just sprayed it. So that's on the inside. There's that little heart from the one dangle trim. I had one of these left over from when I had cut off the lace, and I used that right there, and then one of Kim's bows. So that tucks in there. So that's your first writing spot. This is just some rice paper and another part of the digital, and I stickled her up a little bit. I collaged this all with some of the fairies and one of the fairy houses, and then added in some other little pieces, and the whole kit came with all these little sayings, so they are throughout the entire project, and I won't read them all, but this one says, every once in a while, in the middle of an ordinary life, love gives us a fairy tale. And that's sort of the theme for this whole folder. What I did was I put a tab here and a bow there, just so that if someone's going through here and doesn't know exactly how it works, this makes you want to investigate. So when you reach up and you flip this open, you have another little area where you can write. So I added the word believe on the other side of that tab. And these are some of the digitals. I'm just making sure I'm on camera. Don't want to do this whole video and find out I wasn't. These I added in as flips, so they both flip up, and underneath is more paper that I've just put little collages on, or little pieces from the digital kit. I've added in this beautiful lace, and I put a bit of sari silk down there, or no, that's seam binding down the middle. And then at the bottom of this page, I put some of this beautiful pink trim that Kim has in the shop with these gorgeous little flowers on it. I absolutely love this trim. It's this one here. I'm pretty sure it's one of the vintage ones. And it's a lovely, lovely trim. And you can actually cut each of those little flowers out separately too. So that's on the bottom here. And then of course that gorgeous trim again. I used a lot of that in this book. It went along with the papers beautifully. And it's funny because I had chosen to do these projects before I actually got my design team package. So it's actually quite amazing sometimes how things come together. And so I put that down the whole side here. And that's those two flip spots. And then this whole thing flips open. So you kind of get, it's sitting up. You kind of know there's got to be something more there. And this flips open like that. Let's start here. This is on the back side where we flipped it over. I've made a belly band here with one of the images. I have stickled throughout because I can't imagine a fairy folder without stickles. So the fairies' wings have stickles, and some of the flowers in their hair have stickles, and some of the flowers on their shoes, and just here and there. Under this belly band is another little booklet. And again, I used a couple of the images from the digital pack. I used some book page from the fairy book that I bought and I'm dismantling. And there's some tea stained, and there's some food colored papers in there. There's a little envelope in there over one of the pages. And then in the back, it's in my next life, I want to be a fairy, it says. And there's a butterfly with a little fairy there. And I just put some lace down the side. I stapled these pages in on this one, and I put some lace to cover the staples on the outside there. So that slides underneath here. Down the side here, you probably got a peek of it. Here is the daisy trim, and then another trim from Kim's shop. And then I cut I cut that trim up again. You can cut it into individual little rounds, and I just added them to the middle of the flowers. Some bling added there out of my stash, and another one of Kim's pretty little bows. And then this is just collaged up. There's you know, fairy things and garden things, that theme that goes together. And then in this is a envelope here, and this envelope there creates a pocket there, and in there is another little journaling book. And this one is one of the fabric images, and I had made a lot of the fabric images up before I decided exactly how I was going to put the last fairy book together, because I wanted to be ready. I'm always kind of ahead of myself when it comes to doing my projects. And then once I got building it, I had some left over. So I used this one as the front cover of this little book. And so this is some ribbon embroidery that I did, and some regular embroidery. This is with a heavier yarn. This is with some embroidery floss that has a satin sheen to it, and then there's lots of little French knots in here with a sort of a pinky thread that also has a sheen to it. I fussy cut out this little image from the digital pack, and I stickled her up, and I also put the words fairy dust on here and added what I think is fairy dust on there. And this is also just, I left it so that you could see all the stitching on the back. I'm really working hard on my stitching and trying to make it so that I don't have any like long threads, but you'll see I'm not, it's not perfect yet, but I'm having a lot of fun in the process. I left it so that you could see it. And there's tea and pink food coloring dyed papers here, all sort of scrappy, different sizes of end cuts that I had left over from creating some of the other projects for this. And I put them all together there, stapled them in, and then I added a piece of this lace. Now this lace was in my design team package. I used it in the other little fairy journal that I made, and I have a tiny little piece left, and this is it here. And it is a really pretty little lace that it does well in this kind of application, or on an edge, or around an image. So that little one fits in there. And then this is a big pocket that I created and attached it to the back onto the eyelet lace that's at the back. And this one I put the beautiful flower trim down the side here. I added in one of Kim's bows here. Again, you can see that lace that runs all the way around. This is one of the images, and I made it into a pocket, put the divot in the top here, added in a few more things like a little bird and a butterfly and a little thing up here, the little saying leave a little sparkle wherever you go. And so I had to put one of Kim's little hearts there because it's very sparkly and it seemed very appropriate. Down in the corner here, you can see I did a little flower, and I used one of her daisies trim as the center. And then this little mirror, I just tucked it in behind, kind of as a, oh, one of the fairies dropped her mirror and it's sitting in with the flowers and the mushrooms. And this mirror originally was from Kim. I've had it in my stash, I think, for over a year. She had them in the shop, and I used one of the other ones in another project, but I had one left, and I was just waiting for the right project, and this was it. So it is glued down here just as a little thing. Just for fun, there was some tiny little fairies in this digital pack, and I couldn't resist fussy cutting them out, which, you know, takes time, but I love doing it. And she's got her wings stickled, and I don't know if you can see her very well, but she's sitting there. I plunked her on top of one of the mushrooms down in the corner, down on the bottom here. And this being a big pocket, I put a big tag in the back. So it's got some good amount of room in there, but I didn't want to it was already getting fat enough, so I had to choose where I was going to put things. So I just put a simple tag in the back of there. This is an image from the fairy book that I purchased and I'm taking apart. And this other culotte paper is from another digital pack that I purchased. This is some lace that I had in my stash, and then I put some tulle and some of the eyelash trim in the top here, and then it's got a lovely stenciled tea-stained back on it that's a digital download actually, but very nice to write on. And that I tucked in the top. So I wanted the tulle and the trim to stick out the top there. So that is that page, and I'm just going to fold that over and we can move on. So you're going to see the next couple of pages now. So this middle part has a lot of flips and things going on, and then there's something underneath as well. Now at the very top here, I took some sparkly tulle and I rolled it and I made like a little topper over the top of here and tied some eyelash trim on there, mainly because it was about the look out on the outside. I'll have to show you why I did it. So from the top, I could see this prettiness, but this was lacking something. And so I thought if I did that, it would make this look really finished and pretty on the outside. And it looks like a little curtain framing this section anyway on the inside. So it all ended up working out really nicely. So these are both, this is a flip and a pocket. So again, one of the digital downloads. This is one of Kim's beautiful bows. I love using them as tabs as well. So tabs and just as bows and as butterflies, lots of uses for these pretty bows. And there's just a cute little journaling card in there. And they're all finished on the back, either with the pink cardstock or some kind of tea or food colored paper. This is a little bit of trim, and that is from the top of the dangle lace. So I use that as well. So I just cut it off and I use it for when I need a little trim of some kind. And I really like how it looks. And this one flips over, and then there's spot here that you could write if you wanted to, and just more of the fairy paper and some other papers from another paper line. I believe it's Stamperia that I have some of these papers from that I mixed in as well. And I made a policy closure here, and that's what you're seeing, one of them here. This top one is another flip, and that I just did a little collage, and I put some stickles in the middle of this fairy's. She's sitting, all you see is her back, and she's sitting here on the stump, and I put a little bit of stickles in the middle of her flower, and then I made one into a butterfly there. And this one talks about dreaming, and it just seems so appropriate to put that little thing there because she looks like she's sitting there dreaming about something. And then again, there's more collage work on the inside and a little bit of spot for journaling. And then this is the policy closure. So there are discs underneath here that are actually the policy closure, but then I covered them with the flowers, and I added some little bit of bling with some E6000 onto the top of the brads just to give them more sparkle. This is still from the dragonfly trim that I bought eons ago, or got eons ago, I think a year ago or more, from Kim. This is it here. I only use it one dragonfly at a time, so I'm still good for a few more, and then I'm going to cry because I really love it. And I don't think she's ever been able to get it back in stock. And so policy closures. So here I have a ribbon, and I have a little butterfly here from my stash, and I put some bling on her, and she just unwraps here, and this flips open. Both the top and bottom flaps, let me see. Okay. So let's just move this so you can see that first. So here's the bottom flap on the back side of it. And I've just used a little bit of trim, and there's a little journaling card. This is a tuck spot here. There's a little journaling card there. And then on the top is the same. There is a bit of that book page. There is a little pocket here made with this little fairy, and there's a little tag or a little journaling card in there, and a butterfly. Now I'm going to go back to the middle so that we can look at what I've got here. So what I decided was, first of all, I finished the back so that when you take this little sweet little journal out, this is all finished. So it has a beautiful, one of the digital downloads, printed and applied here. Beautiful lace from Kim's shop, the one I showed that you cut in half down each side, and a little saying on there. And then this is a little journal. I wanted to include a journal in here. I tried initially to put a larger journal in here. It just didn't fit. It's just when it starts to flip, you really lose some of your, like when this gets thicker and this gets thicker, it's hard when your middle it won't fit. So I created this little one. This again was one of this is fabric with the digital fairy picture printed onto the fabric, as I did for the other book I made this month. And then she is all stitched with French knots and running stitch and some lazy daisy stitch. And then I've added some stickles on her wings, and I put a trim around the edge as well with green embroidery. And then I applied her onto a piece of fabric that had these pink flowers in it. I added more embroidery stitches up the side and made a flower out of the fabric and frayed out the edges, so it's got this beautiful frayed out flower. Kim's trim there in the center, and one of the coffee type bows at the top. This is a piece of lace that I had left from another design team package down the side here. This is that pretty pink trim at the top, and I put it at the back too, so it's a double one at the top there. And then again, because I had originally made this with the thoughts that maybe I would make it as a tag, but then I wanted to use it as the front of this journal because plans changed, because the other journal I was going to make was going to be too big. So I put it as a flip on here because I had finished it so much on the back, and I really liked how I'd finished it off and the frayed out fabric and stuff. I hope you can see all that. And so I put a little pocket on the back of it, put a little journaling card in there, and then made another front on the journal. So I used a fairy image with her again, but with a little house. I added it onto a piece of the fairy book page that had this fairy already on the page, and so I kind of collaged all around this fairy to make it look like this fairy is laying on top of the house, and this little one is sitting beside, and I added one of the little pink flowers in, butterfly there, and then I added this beautiful lace, which I think it's a month ago I had in my design team package. I believe she still has this in the shop. It is gorgeous. Love, love, love this one as well. And again, I do cut it up as well, but here I used it on the bottom of here to add. Now I sewed the signatures in this particular one with the eyelash trim, and I added Made with Love and one of the little fairy charms on here. I believe Kim does. This was originally from her shop, the fairy one, and I believe she's got them back in the shop as well. And so I added those to the strings. And then I'll put this down so that I can give you a quick look inside. So I used that book I'm dismantling. I used it again like I showed you for the front cover, and then inside you can see one of the fairies. I added a pocket here and just added some of the, in the back of the fairy book, they have these little, they're on both sides, but they're little stamps. So I added a cup of 4 of them in there, and 8 altogether because they're on the other side, so you can pick which ones you like. This was a little piece of lace I had left from another design team package, and it again was one of my favorites. I was hoarding it, but I decided that hoarding is not a good idea, so I stapled it on top of this with this image. So you flip this little curtain up, there's this cute little image and journaling underneath here, and then of course you have the pink paper there that I have dyed. This one flips out, and I've put a little tuck spot here. I've added in a fairy from the book. It's got beautiful paper on the back side, cut it with a little bit of fancy scissors, and I tucked her in there so you could journal on the back of that as well. And that flips back in. This is tea-stained paper. These little images were all throughout the digital papers that I bought, so I just cut them out and added them in different spots. I did a little collage here with some of that pretty lace again that I showed you, and a butterfly and one of the pretty pink flowers. This is again from the fairy book, and I've just added that here and added a little butterfly, did it as a flip, and added some of that pretty lace onto it. This is another one that flips out to give you more journaling space, and she also flips up. So you have lots of room there. Another little fairy. This is one of the little envelopes that was in the digital pack. I just added it here. The envelopes, I didn't glue them shut, so you can glue them shut yourself, or you can use it. A lot of people like to use them to journal in. and then they can close it, and it's sort of like hidden journaling, or otherwise you can certainly can glue the sides down if you want to make it into an envelope. Here I've just added again a little bit of the digital paper, cut the edges with a little bit of a fancy scissor. She's in from the digitals. I've added a little bit of lace. Again, here I've added a flip. We saw her before, but I added her in here again, and she flips open so that you can either tuck something under here, or you could be able to pull under there. Little piece of that trim again tucked up here. Another one of the envelopes on there, and then a piece of the digital paper in here. Another flip here with the little fairy. So although this little journal is really small, it's got lots of space in it for journaling. There's journaling and there's pockets to tuck things in. This is a part of that book, so I left the words there so that you could see them, because you can see it says things like queen and advice or help and crown upon her and necklace and silky gown. So all kinds of things that are nice to read, interest. This is one of the little tags and I put that paper from the book on the back of it. And this is a little pocket, and again more of that pink dyed paper. Some more tags, some from the book, some from the digital papers, another little bit of that lace from Kim's shop. And this is the back. Flips open there, a couple of tags in here, and then there's the back page, which is part of the book. And then beautiful lace, a little bit of fairy collaging, and a little bit more lace from Kim's shop, and a little butterfly. So this little beauty sits in behind here, and you close that with the policy closure that I created on here. I won't bother fussing with it right now. Let's move on to the last bit. So this is the last part that opens up, and what you have is maybe I'll leave it like that, probably easier to show you. Make sure that it's on screen. Yes, it is. Okay. A part of the digital download and some collaging that I did on there. So there's some lines to actually journal on. There's a piece of lace running down the side here. And then there is a big pocket here. And this flips down. So again, I'll just move this, make sure you can see it. It has journaling space. It has one of the little fairies. And this beautiful paper, which I think is stamped Korea, but it could be, oh, I can't remember for sure, but it's a beautiful paper line too. And then I made I had another one of those ones done on the fabric, so I used it as a cover on here and added a few. This is a trim from my stash, but it could have been from Kim's shop from like a year or more ago. I used brads on this one, and I made it a flip this way. Again, I left it so you could see the stitching on the back, and I just added some papers. These are all the pink food dyed papers that are in here, and what I did was I just tucked that in here. This is one of those cool envelopes that I just learned how to make. And so I've added some of the leaf trim down the side. I used one of the flowers from Kim's flower trim and just cut off one of the petals and made a little butterfly. And this is just a flower from my stash. And this flips open, and this is created by folding. When the page is folded over like this, you fold this up, and that creates your tuck spot for your point. And this opens up, opens up, opens up, opens up, and you have a whole place to journal. Now, I didn't do any stamping or anything fancy on the inside of that envelope. I could have, but I did not. And so there's lots of room there. You could do whatever you want with that. And then I just clipped it onto the page here. This is a big pocket in the back here, and in there is another little booklet. So this is, of course, one of the fairies. I fussy cut her out of one of the papers. I did some collaging in behind her. I put one of my actually crocheted butterflies on here with a little bit of the cup chain from Kim's shop. This is the pink one. And I put a paper clip on here just to make sure she stays nice and flat, to make it easy to tuck her in, because I left all the pages loose on this one because I just wanted it to be like maybe you might want to use these papers in another journal. You might want to use them to write letters to somebody, and so I left them loose. They're all part of the digital collection and then from other digital downloads that I have purchased from other designers, and I have put them all, that one probably could go this way, I think. And then this is the final one, which I left bigger, which is at the back. And I just did the fancy cutting on the edges with the scissor because I started doing that and I really liked how it looked. And although it takes some time to do, it really does look pretty. And then I added those in behind her. She is on a heavy piece of card of the book page, so it's very sturdy, and there's some tea stain paper in the back of her. So you could also write on her as well. And then just get those all lined up. And again, one of those pretty little heart paper clips that I have. And she's an example. She has these cute little shoes on with flowers, and I did a little dot of stickles on each of those flowers. She turned out really pretty. I'm really pleased with her. So pretty. I probably should have put a little word on there, but forgot. I could probably still do that. And then when you close this up, this is just all collage. There's a window envelope here, and I just chose to put an image in that window and seal it, and then I collaged on the back. So she is permanently sealed inside that envelope, and I hope you can see her okay with the glare and everything. There, not bad. She looks really cute. And then more of the digital paper, some of some paper from the other paper line. Beautiful leaf trim used all around the edge of this and sort of swooped around here as well. Down the side here, another bit of the Kim's lace. That's part of this one again. I just used this edge here, and I put it all the way down the side, and then I added, there's these little flowers that are on that edge piece, and I added one of these little hearts in each of those flowers. And then I had one of these charms still left. These, I think they're still in the shop. I had put one on my other fairy themed journal this month as well, or little book, and it says dream on it. And this one I attached with a little piece of her, again, that pink cup chain, and I just wrapped it around there and glued it onto the lace so that that sits there. Hopefully you can see that. There. That's her, with all her flips and all her tucks and all her goodies. And I love working with Kim's laces. I think that they go beautifully with sari pieces and with dark fabrics. Obviously, the big theme with Kim's things is shabby chic, but not shabby chic isn't the only things that I create with, and I know others don't as well. And I just want you to know that her laces and trims can be used and are beautiful, used with the other, vibrant colors, and they look, and they look beautiful. So don't forget to check out Kim's shop. It's AngeldreamCraftsKim on Etsy. And the list of all the designers will also be in the description box below, so please go over and see what beautiful things they're creating with Kim's products so that you can be inspired. And I will leave links to the Facebook group and our Instagram so you can go over and join in. And with the Instagram is a great place because you get a heads up when new things go in the shop, because some things sell out really quickly. And the Facebook group, the designers post their designs in there, so you know when there's a new design, and then there usually is an easy click to the YouTube video so you can watch the whole thing. So it's kind of nice to be a part of the Facebook group and to be on the Instagram as well. So go over and shop and buy some fun things for yourself. And I will talk to you all soon. Bye for now.